Hey there, in today's video, I'm going to break the number one myth that studio owners have about how to sell memberships in their studio. If you don't know who I am, my name is Giuseppe Malone. I help studio owners build freedom businesses so that they can scale and live the dreams of their lives. These clothing I'm wearing are literally my clients who I've been able to help succeed and grow their businesses and build freedom businesses. And prior to doing that, I was the regional director of operations for Orange Theory Fitness, where I was bringing in anywhere between $6 to $18 million in revenue each and every year through sales. So it's not whether this stuff works or not. It's whether you are actually going to apply what I'm going to show you and do the work. So this shit works. It works for my clients. It worked for my studios. It's going to work for you. But we need to establish what the number one myth is. Okay? The number one myth that studio owners face is they think that coaches shouldn't sell. Okay? Let me explain. There's this idea that based on the whole process of a prospect coming in to try a class, free trial, whatever your offer is, that the sales associate should be predominantly the one that sells the membership. And by title, it makes sense, right? They're a sales associate. And the coach should be only focused on delivering an amazing member experience, which is also true. But let's just actually break down the reality of that, okay? We know that sales associates, most of them, this is their first job. This is their first sales job. They lack work experience, okay? Most of them. Not all of them, most of them. So the criteria to become a sales associate is low. It is not that high. You need to be a good person. You need to be able to have great conversations. You need to take care of the studio. And ideally, you need to be able to have great conversations to sell members, right? That's the whole point. But then when we look at coaches, we have a whole list of criteria, right? Orange Theory, we have a whole week of training that we put coaches through. And prior to that, they need specific certifications. And then after that whole week of training, which is usually paid, we still decide whether we want to move forward with that candidate or not. So what I don't understand, and what I couldn't understand when I was struggling with my studios, is we have all this requirement for coaches, yet they're not the ones who are necessarily supposed to be selling. It's the sales associate. And so I want to break this down to eliminate this myth for you and just look at it on the whiteboard perspective, okay? So I would say let's look at coaches selling, right? Let's look at the old way. Okay, and we'll call this the new way, because I'm very shocked of how many owners I talk to don't understand. I mean, this really to me isn't a new way. It's how I was able to scale my studios, but it might be new to you. Okay, the old way is that the sales associate does the discovery and the pitch, right? They do the pitch, okay? So that sales associate that we mentioned who has the lowest criteria needed to get that job is doing discovery questions and a pitch, which requires a lot of skill. Now you might be saying, well, my franchise gives me all the scripts that I need, right? Or, we have a whole routine process, but I'm telling you right now, sales isn't just about scripts, okay? And if you have seen my videos, you know I teach the sales by service system, which is one of the best frameworks out there to help you close more memberships that you can literally teach your teams today to do. But it's a framework that doesn't need scripts, okay? Because scripts aren't going to sell memberships. They keep everything in line, but it's about energy and the ability to ask the right questions, right? Because there's rejection involved, there's all these things. And ultimately, people buy if they like you, if they trust you, and if they respect you, okay? So if we understand that people buy based on like, trust, and respect, and we're having a sales associate who has very little skills, okay? And again, not saying everybody. So for those who are listening who are saying, well, I have the best sales team in the world, fine, okay? But I'm telling you right now, they're not closing at the numbers that you want, because if they were, you wouldn't be watching this video. It's pretty self-explanatory. But understanding that we're requiring a sales associate who has lack of experience, who is tasked to do something that they're not a pro at, to build like, trust, and respect with the prospect who's about to make an investment on a monthly plan. Okay? You're literally putting all your eggs in one basket. Okay? So here's the other thing. Okay? Typically, in most group studio environments, if we're doing, let's say like a free intro offer or a trial offer, either way, their first visit, we ask them to come 15 to 30 minutes prior so that we can ask these questions. Okay? 15 to 30 minutes to build relationship, rapport, all that type of stuff with somebody who isn't extremely experienced in sales. Do we really think that's enough time? I don't, okay? Because the person who's a sales associate, okay, they're going to do the best they can, but they're also managing all these other things like checking other members in, making sure the studio is looking good. There's a lot of things going on. Unless you're overloading your front desk, then we might need to talk more about labor costs. But in the reality of things, okay, you're just trusting somebody to make something happen that requires such a high level skill to be done in 15, 30 minutes. And then let's be honest, at the end of the class, they spend probably 5 minutes with them. That's the pitch. And then what's the worst part about that pitch? Okay? Where's that sale usually done? It's done in the lobby. And then when it's done in the lobby, what ends up happening? There's other people checking in for the next class. The prospect feels very uncomfortable. Then all of a sudden there's a financial objection. It just goes all over the place. And guess what they say? I need to think about it. They leave. And now your team is being bombarded to make a bunch of phone calls. Okay? So having the sales associate, even though they're called sales associate, which you might need to change the name of that. Okay? But I'm saying it in reference to what most studios hire in this position. Welcome team, sales associate, membership consultant, whatever. They are not spending enough time, nor do they have the skills to be able to close in high volume. And that's what we want. We want everyone to sign up for our program, okay? Let's think about this other way where the coach is predominantly selling, okay? Well, the coach, okay, if the coach is selling, okay, and they do the discovery and the pitch, why do you think it would be a lot easier for them to do it compared to the sales associate? Well, I'll tell you. One, the coach is spending at least 50 minutes with that person because the coach is the product. So in 50 minutes of going through an amazing class experience, we are working on building like, trust, and respect. And how can we do that? Touch points, understanding where they're at, asking the proper discovery questions, understanding what's been preventing them from, making changes in their fitness life. It's easier to be more relatable. Why? Because coaches also have way more experience dealing with members. Your SAs, some of them are part-time. They're not there every day. They got other priorities. Your coaches are dedicated to helping people. They're going to find the things that these people need in order to move to the next step, right? So the coach, who has way more experience than the sales associate in dealing with members and prospects, okay, is spending 50 minutes of time versus the 15, 30 minutes prior, right, to the class. And they're in that room with the coach. They have to build a relationship, okay? The only way this doesn't work is if your coach sucks. And if your coach sucks, that's your own problem. You already know what you got to do here. But we're talking about all-star coaches, okay? Because in my studios, I had all-star coaches. This is why this worked so well. But understand, why this works so well. They're spending 50 minutes with that person to build like, trust, and respect. They have more experience in dealing with these members, which also means that during the discovery, they can prescribe more personalized planning, right? So if this prospect has certain injuries or this prospect has certain issues, you really think the sales associate is going to be able to handle that type of information? They're not approved to handle that type of information. Only the coach is. Okay? So if we go back to the old way for a second, what typically happens is the coach will finish the class, will talk with the intro, the guest, whatever you call it, ask about their experience, and then they will just talk about the different offers they have. We have our unlimited plan for this, our elite plan for this, our basic plan for this. Based on what you told me, it'd be great to go with the elite plan. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Sales associate Julie is going to take care of the rest. In the old way, the coach literally is pushing that person away. The person that they just spent 15 minutes with, they're pushing them away as if they don't matter, as if all the paperwork and stuff, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. It's the dumbest mentality ever. And it's because in the old way, the member experience was the thing that sold. Well, guess what? In 2025, it takes more effort. And if we're not focusing on improving and adapting to the market, we're going to lose. So in the new way, when the class is done, the coach is going to be able to pitch, but it's going to be very personalized based on what they said. And we're going to make an agreement in the studio where it's private. There's nobody there. It's completely private. Meaning that you don't have the lobby confusion. You don't have to worry about checking other people in. Now, the sales associate should definitely be in the room, but they're more of an assistant. They're not necessarily the person that's pitching. They're the one with the paperwork. So the coach, now who spends the most time with the prospect, does a great job with the class, does their touch points, all that good stuff, then is in the room with that individual at the end of class. Everyone's leaving, they're talking, and it's now a conversation between the coach and the prospect because they have built like, trust, and respect is being built based on the discovery questions and then the pitch. Because in fitness, our job isn't about just making money. It's about giving the people the right program for their success, which is just as simple as that. But for whatever reason, there's this idea that coaches shouldn't be selling because they're bad at selling. Well, why are they bad at selling? It's because it's your own fucking fault. You should be teaching and developing your people to become the best versions of themselves. And here's the other thing too, and this is the real truth. People look at sales as this really negative thing. Okay? I'm on a mission to really help all of the people who think this way. Because I used to think of it early in my career, oh, it's car salesy, all that type of stuff. It's only car salesy when your intentions are wrong. When you're trying to help somebody and you help align their vision and where they're trying to go and where they need to be, and you state the facts of what we can do to transform their lives, it's up to them to make that choice. We're not going to force them to do it. That's why your discovery needs to be on point. You have to get clarifying answers to clarifying questions. And it's all about how you ask those questions. And I told you, I have the sales by service system in my YouTube channel. You can watch it. It talks about all the details of those questions. But coaches are literally the best people to have selling in your studios. You're also paying them more. Their responsibility is about increasing utilization and having better closing percentages. The coach needs to be the one doing the sale, not the sales associate. The sales associate should be doing the paperwork, getting them all set up and sending them a welcome email so that buyer's remorse diminishes and that, that member is ready to rock and roll. So if I were to recap everything for you here, okay? The number one myth, coaches shouldn't be selling. Bullshit, okay? The old way, sales associate, if that person shows up 15 to 30 minutes prior, they're doing the discovery and the pitch. If they're reading a script, I'm telling you, it sounds fucking robotic. They're trying to develop like, trust, and respect before the class even starts. And then at the end of class, they have 5 minutes to get that pitch because that person wants to go. They're in the lobby. All these people are checking in. They just want to leave. They don't want to deal with it. And they're too afraid. That prospect, when they say, I need to think about it, they're really trying to say no politely to you. And that's a problem because now you have to do all these fucking follow-up calls and all this bullshit and you're chasing. We don't want to chase. We want to attract. Okay? The new way is the coach does the discovery and the pitch. Why? They are spending on average 50 minutes, depending on your class. If it's a 45-minute class, and there you go. If it's a 60-minute class, I just chose 50. It's a good number in between, okay? They're spending 50 minutes with that prospect. Yes, they're managing other people in the room too, but you know what? If they're a really good coach, they understand the importance of someone new in the room and how much they need attention. So they're building their like and they're building their trust with them in the room by guiding them, doing their touch points, and making sure they have a great member experience, okay? Because the coach has way more experience in dealing with people who are on their journey than a sales associate does. They're able to now prescribe a personalized plan. It's not just listing the fucking options like it's a fucking McDonald's, okay? You figure out what they actually need, and the coach is the professional in the room who can determine based on the discovery questions which plan's going to work. It's not about making the most money. It's not about getting them to pay the most. It's about, does this plan fit to the needs that they have for what they're trying to do? And then finally, you have the sales associate in the room as an assistant. They're there to guide, to make sure that the paperwork's done, the onboarding is done, and everything has gone smoothly. And the respect is built in the pitch, and that's where the prescription of the personalized planning is. I hope this video shows you that we need to think differently. We can't be settled on the new ways. It's not about getting new leads. It's not about getting, just like all this bullshit marketing that's out there, okay? I've been in this game for almost 15 years, okay? I understand what it takes to grow and build studios. That is why I help my clients like Fusion and Freedom and so many others. I even have Orange Theory with me. We do these things because we understand it's important to respond to the market and give the best that we can out there because you deserve it. You're trying to help people. You're trying to change lives. But we can't do the same bullshit. The old way doesn't work. We have to start thinking new. Okay? So here's the deal. If you've been watching this whole video to this point, I want you to DM me on Instagram, Leadership, and I'll send you a really cool in-depth training that doesn't exist on YouTube. It'll be super awesome. Just shoot me that message on Instagram and I'll know you've came from this video. If you liked everything here, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, ring the bell, do all that bullshit, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.